Well, here we are now in 2013, and here I am too, somebody who was in successive general elections elected on behalf of the Fianna Fáil party and proudly representing my constituency of Longford, Westmeath. And yet, surely it is not too fanciful for me to put forward today as my theme for this summer school, that it is time that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael would bridge the political divide between them and give serious thought to coming together in a political coalition come the next general election. I know quite well that there are plenty who will dismiss my reflections here today as summer school speak, or even the wild rantings of somebody who has left the political system. No, there are no wild rantings. It is very easy to dismiss my thoughts in that cavalier fashion. We as a people have long forgotten that the bone of contention between us as parties since the Civil War is the treaty signed in London in those far-off days. I put the thought out there, conscious that I can do so, coming as I do from a lifetime of observing the tribal political theatre that is Clogher. Coming as I am from someone who has reflected in historical terms long and hard on the thoughts I'm putting forward today, and coming as I am from a mixed political background. We are, in the end, the product of our backgrounds. And though growing up we knew all that about my mother and my father, it didn't somehow come in on us. It didn't kind of weigh upon us. But yet, of course, it had a bearing. I was inspired to do so by the generous thoughts and reflections in the speech Brian Lenihan made in mBláth. It is, to my mind, one of the most generous non-tribal speeches ever made by anyone in either Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael or Labour. But I am most of all inspired by what has been able to be done in Northern Ireland, of the differences which have been overcome and accommodated. Is it not time to bury the totem poles and fly the common flag of Michael Collins and Eamon de Valera? I quote finally from the last sentence of Brian Lenihan's speech, but even if we can never know how the relationship between Collins and de Valera might have evolved, surely now we have the maturity to see that in their very different styles, both made huge contributions to the creation and development of our state. Neither was without flaws, but each had great strengths. Each was at different periods prepared to operate with the constraints of the realities facing them without losing sight of the greater vision of a free, prosperous, distinctive and, dare I say, here in Clogher, sometime united Ireland. Is it not time now in this year of 2013 to know the similarities and to forego the differences? Is it not time for us to think the unthinkable, to allow our minds to range over the possibilities which could emerge from the voices of the electorate in 2 to 3 years' time? It is enough that the mind is engaged, and that is all I ask for, to engage the mind on this possibility and to reflect on the courage and vision of those who have gone before us. Now, I don't usually, very rarely do I actually speak from a script. I like to talk naturally. But I did feel that this was an important occasion. I did feel that the theme and the principle of what I had to say was very important. So that's why I actually sat down with Brian's script there and my own blank pages, and I thought and wrote and thought and wrote. And I am sure you will accept it in the way in which I have prepared it and in which I have to say it. And as a little funny interlude to it all, I forgot to say that when I started to make my way in politics, the local organisation in Athlone of Fianna Fáil. Oh, there was already a guy going forward too, and then I was going, you know the way it is. And they wanted to have one up on me, and they used to say at meetings, and your father wasn't Fianna Fáil either. And of course we all knew that. That was the way we were brought up. It wasn't taken from us. But I used to say, and what about my mother? Is she not important? Is her background not important? And they would kind of say, oh yeah, but you see, to them, then as now, women in politics, no, they're not top dogs, they're down the line a bit, and so that used to be the taunt I would get. Oh, you don't, what would you be knowing about Fianna Fáil? You're not really Fianna Fáil. But of course we are, and we can be more, and I would love to take questions now. If anybody feels they'd like to ask me something, I will be delighted to answer. And thank you for listening so clearly to me. Thank you.